Sara with you today from the Cherry on Top design team. This month for Technique Tuesday, we are going to be showing how to use layers on our projects. Everyone is going to be showing you how they approach layering on their pages. I'm going to be using 3 photos and the Happy Blooms collection from Pinkfish Studio. I'm going to start by kind of organizing my scraps here. So anything that's 12 inches long, I'm probably going to end up using on my layout. So I'm going to set those off to one side. And then once I kind of have those sorted, I can go ahead and start to create my page. When I do layering on my scrapbook pages, I always start right at the beginning. So that means I start by creating a layered background. I use lots of different patterns. I like to work with patterns within the same kit or collection. Kind of just makes it easier for me to mix and match different things. I'm going to use some of that cut apart paper because I won't know that my photos require some journaling. And I'm just kind of flipping through to see what patterns I have, what I might want to work with as I build my layers. To create a layered background, I start right at the back and work all the way to the front of my layout. I'm going to start my layout with some Basil Coconut Swirl 12 by 12 cardstock. This is my favorite bright white cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and use this yellow pattern as my first layer. So I'm going to start with my white cardstock. Then I'm going to cut my pattern paper here down to 11.5 by 11.5. This will give me a 1/4 inch border around my finished layout. I really love to add ink to each of my layers on my background. For today's project, I am using Distress Oxide ink and Hickory Smoke. When I'm dealing with a layout or a color collection that has lighter colors, cooler colors, I use gray. If I'm using darker, more earthy patterns or tones, I use Vintage Photo. So I put some nice sticky tape on the back of my layout, and then I just added a couple bits of my tape runner. The tape runner is going to hold the paper in place so things don't shift around once I have the frame the equal on all 4 sides. So I kind of move it around, get my paper perfectly framed on my page, and then push it down and pull off the tape. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab those 12-inch strips. So I'm going to let the strips kind of do the designing for me. I have these 3 strips, and I could definitely kind of have pushed them all together, kept them separate. There's a lot of ways I could have attached them. I decided to kind of go for this page design. This is one of my favorite types of page designs where you're almost splitting your layout a little bit in half. And you'll see what I mean as I continue here. So again, every layer is getting some Vintage Photo Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide. And now I kind of have these 2 panels, one across the top, and then I'm going to kind of layer these 2 patterns up and put this layer across the bottom. So already you can see how I build my layouts from the back to the front using layers. So now I can go ahead and decide on my picture placement. I'm going to place my larger photo at the top of the page in the top left. I'm going to mat the photo, add my Distress Oxide ink, and then pop it up using some foam tape. And by matting your photo, you're adding more pattern, more color, and more layers. So we're continuing to build up. I decided on this bright yellow paper for my larger photo. Then I have the 2 small ones, and I've chosen 2 more tone on tone kind of pink patterns, and every picture is going to get a mat. And I'm just using patterns from my 6x6 paper pad. So some of the patterns here are, I've already used them. I think I used them to back a cut file last month on my YouTube channel. So I just have these little corners taken out, which makes them perfect for mats. Creating a layout like this is a great way to use up scraps. You don't even have to necessarily trim them down at all. You saw how I just went through my scraps, grabbed the ones that were 12 inches wide, kept them at whatever width they were, and went with it. So I'm going to continue on. I'm going to take both of these photos. I'm going to add my Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide ink. You're probably going to get really sick of me inking up edges, but that's okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop some of these up on foam tape. That allows my photos to kind of sit up off of all of those layered backgrounds so your photo doesn't get lost in all the pattern. It also gives me a bit of a shelf that I can tuck things under, because remember, we're working with layers. So you can see how I have the photos oriented here. Again, kind of understand how we've taken those two strips of paper. Now we're going to use those strips of paper as the base. I know that I have some journaling that I really want to use or really want to add to this spread or this layout. So I'm going to use this 3x4 card, and I'm just going to kind of trim it up and do my journaling right there on that card. If any of the Pink Fur Studios Happy Blooms line is available in a Cherry on Top's shop, there will be links to the products in the description box. Grabbing my Tombow pen, and I'm just going to do a bit of journaling about these photos. So this summer, my youngest son has been like crazy into plants. And this talks about how our neighbors have a weeping cherry tree, and he's been admiring it. He admired it like all spring. Finally, they had someone over trimming it, and he walked right over there and asked them for some cuttings to try to get one to grow on his own. Unfortunately, all the little baby trees did not make it, but he still had all the fun of looking up how to do it and getting the cuttings right and all those kinds of things. So it was still a really great learning experience for him. So I'm going through my die cuts, and I have some fussy cut flowers. One of the pattern papers from the collection had some beautiful florals, and I went ahead and just fussy cut about half the sheet of the florals, and I have those there, and I decided that would be great, that I could layer them up. Now, sometimes layering doesn't necessarily mean that you are fully layering things. Sometimes layering things just means that you're faux layering. Like the two flowers across the top were flowers that were on the edge of my paper, or you could have used a die cut and cut it in half. So you don't always have to have literal layers. You can have faux layers. But I chose a bunch of flowers, again, choosing some that had those nice straight edges because I could then just butt them up against some of the pattern paper to create the illusion of layers. Everything is still getting that Hickory Smoke Distress ink just to give everything some cohesiveness. And this also really allows you to, in the finished product, see every layer. So when you look at this, you're going to go, oh, look, this is like a paper on top of a paper on top of an embellishment. So I'm going to use that little Home Life from the kit, pop it up, or from the collection, pop it up on top of my floral cluster right there. Using some pop dots to create some depth and some dimension onto some of these elements. I'm really trying not to say layer anymore in my video. Can you tell? But as that is the focus of our page. And you also saw there how I layered, again, with the layering. And a die cut element right there on top of my photos, you can totally do that. Find some area of your photos that needs that could do with a little bit of something and add a die cut. Continuing to build up the layers. Using some tabby dots there to pop up areas of my layout. I kind of thought about that pink one, but didn't really like the placement. I'm gonna go through the die cut some more, see what else I can add to kind of get everything layered together. I went ahead and added that little strip that says "You Are My Sunshine," kind of layered it up and around under my photo, and then I kind of have it tucked in and behind some of my florals. And then I did the same thing with that birdhouse, just added it into that open area, but then kind of pulled up the edges of the different floral pieces and kind of tucked it up in and around. I hope you have enjoyed this little Technique Tuesday tutorial. Next time you want to make a focus of layering onto your page, start with the back and work your way forward, just layering up patterns and die cuts and embellishments until you're happy with how everything is playing with everything else. I hope that you have a wonderful Tuesday, and I will see you all again next month for another Technique Tuesday video here at A Cherry on Top. See you soon. Bye.